Hello home brewers, today I want to teach you how to use something that you may well have neglected and chucked in the very back of your pantry or in your brewing cupboard, and that is the age-old French press. Now these things get a pretty awful rap, and often you find them for next to nothing in an op shop, which is about where this one came from. I'm going to teach you to make gorgeous silt-free coffee that tastes crisp and clean using this age-old invention. So things you'll need, obviously your French press. Again, obviously something to drink it from. We're going to go with a little hand grinder, a home grinder, any kind of grinder is good. Way better to have freshly ground beans as opposed to getting them pre-ground. Get a filter roasted bean. I've roasted these myself. This is a Kenyan pea berry. I'm really looking forward to trying this one. In the French press, a decent set of scales and a trusty kettle. Preferably one that you can tell the temperature of, but any old kettle will do. Before you start, figure out the volume of your French press. This tiny little French press is going to take about 300 grams of water once I've got grinds in. So I'm going to be brewing with 60 to 70 grams of coffee per litre of water. Dial that back for whatever size French press you're using at home. So that boils down to me for 20 grams of coffee will make 300 grams total extracted brew. So let's get going. So I'm going to throw my grinder onto the scale. Now I'm chucking in 20 grams of fresh, lightly roasted, filter roasted coffee beans. Now this may shock you, but we don't actually want a super coarse grind. We want about mid grind, okay, between what you would use for pour over coffee, which is quite coarse, and what you use on the other end of the spectrum for espresso. Shiver me timbers. Oh boy, that thing makes you work for it. Now that I'm all hungry for a coffee, what I'm going to do before I put the grinds in is just preheat the vessel. So chuck a little water in there because you don't want the temperature to drop too quickly. I'll just discard that down the sink. Now we're good to go for putting our freshly ground coffee into the bottom. Now I've tared the scale again and we're going to pour in the water. So I'm going for 300 grams total water. As soon as you finish pouring in, just give it a good stir down, really agitate those grinds and expose all the surface area. Now that I've just poured the water in, I'm going to hit start on my timer. And maybe the hardest bit is waiting. We're going to wait 4 minutes for this puppy just to brew and for a crust to form on the surface. What this does is kind of emulate what we do as roasters when we cup coffee. We're letting everything that's dissolvable come out of those coffee beans into the water. Okay, so at the 4 minute mark, we want to grab 2 tablespoons and we're just going to break the crust, okay? So again, it's a similar practice to what we do with cupping for those who roast. We're letting anything that wants to sink, and we're taking away that little bit of floating crema and all the crusty coffee. Now just be patient. If you want to speak some encouraging and positive words to your coffee, this is the time for that because you get another 5 or 6 minutes to wait. You're doing great, buddy. Keep up the good work. Your mum and I, we never stop believing in you. I'm sure that you're at least as good as I'm imagining you are. I haven't copyrighted any of those comments. If anyone wants to use those at home, they absolutely are welcome. Well, we're up to about 9 minutes and 30 seconds and this thing should be done. So grab it off the scale and I'm going to put the little top on. Take it off. I'm just going to push it down so it touches the water. And that should be perfectly ready to drink. Beautiful, clean looking coffee. It's completely sediment free. We're going to let all that silt stay at the very bottom of the carafe. Cheers. Wow, it's actually so good. It's really good. Well, cheers, little Frenchie. That's a damn good coffee. How'd you go making a French press? Let me know how you go in the comments. Also, if you've got someone else in your life who's got one of these tucked away, it's time for them to get it out too. Please like and subscribe. Please assist me.